Hey guys, welcome to the no, this is not the conspiracy story to the channel and the first live stream in years. God damn it. And this is something I wanted to do because, well, today is my day off, and honestly, I've been watching some of the live streams and the content, and it's concerning. To say the least. And I wanted to show you guys instead of something of fighting, fear, and everything else that you could find easily on YouTube, I wanted to show you something really interesting that I found the other day called the Space Bridge. And it's a really it's an experiment. Well, it's more like a PR move by the Russians that wanted to wash their name after the Red Scare and to loosen tensions in the Cold War, and they came up with this idea of connecting the U.S. and Russia on a live show where participants on both sides could ask whatever they want to the other side and it would be translated immediately, it would be live. And it's really funny and interesting the questions that each side start to ask. uh, First they start kind of like joking, then it what would you ask right now if to a person in Russia, and just with the current knowledge that you have of the country or the situation? And I'm highlighting this because uh we listened to this phrase a lot, uh, perception change reality. If you want to uh, change your reality, you change how you perceive it, right? Not everybody, an example, perceives the flow of time in the same way as another person. uh the colors, the taste, uh but it goes beyond. And I'm gonna leave that for the end. It's a really interesting concept. It's a reality breaker, and you'll see. You guys gonna see why. Anyway, uh, I have a funny video, but I'm gonna leave it to the end. Let's start. I'm gonna make some uh pauses here and there to talk about it on the subject. It's 1 hour long. We're not gonna watch it all, but pay attention because maybe somebody in the audience could be you with some really funny conception of how other people in other country live or think. Let's watch it.
Is Leningrad, USSR? And this is Seattle, Washington, in the United States. Today, these citizens from the Soviet city and these citizens from the US city will talk by television satellite on a Citizens Summit.
In Leningrad alone, we buried so many people, as many people during the war as were lost by all of America.
What is the city of Gorky, and what is it used for?
We're very worried about missiles in West Germany, cruise missiles in the UK, in Holland, in the Netherlands, and the rest of Europe. Why are these missiles in Europe?
Outside our studio at this moment are gathered several protesters.
Hosted in Seattle by Phil Donahue and in Leningrad by Vladimir Posner. Participants in a Citizen Summit are free to discuss whatever they wish. No subject will be off limits. The Soviet and American audiences are men and women who work in factories, schools, hospitals, and their own homes. They are students and fishermen, farmers and physicians. They'll meet each other face to face next on a Citizens Summit.
Nice.
I understand that Riza, Secretary Gorbachev's wife, was a lecturer on Stalin, on Leninism and Marxism before she was married. What kind of pay would she might a person get in that situation today?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone who works in the Soviet Union receives a salary.
May we ask why the question was met with such laughter?
You're wrong if you think that Gorbachev's wife tells all of us what her salary is and what kind of work she gets it for.
I would like for you to list 2 or 3 things that your government can do to ease the tension of nuclear war as steps to bring about peace in the world.
Anybody? Anyone else like to reply? Yes, sir.
The first thing would be moratorium on nuclear testing and explosions. And the second thing would be a reduction of nuclear armaments on the whole, and then a reduction of all weaponry. Therefore, for that reason, Gorbachev at the summit meeting stated that, and our government has always stated that, this has to be done. What about your side?
Okay, I wanted to pause there a little bit because just to remind you, this is ordinary people asking ordinary people. Those weren't government officials. The person from America wasn't. He's. He was asking normal people and treat like expecting a question an answer like it was coming from the Russian government. And what's hilarious is that a Russian did took that role and answers like if not the government, but at least what's in the Russians' mind of, well, we can do this. So it's gonna happen several times, but just keep that in mind.
What about our side?
Our government, in fact, has declared that it will not be the first for a nuclear strike.
Yes.
Who wants to ask questions?
We have a question for you.
What has your government done for the sake of peace? Give us at least three. Or even one. Fine.
I think that we're all in accord on those three particular items and why we have to do that. I think the problem is, how do we go about making sure we both do it at the same time?
Oh.
We're very pleased here to hear from our dear friends this evening that you think, as we do, that measures to strengthen peace and to guarantee peace should be carried out in this world. And this is particularly pleasant since the proposals made by our government regarding 50% reductions in weapons are proposals which you consider as your proposals too. Apparently, this is what both of our peoples think, and that doubtless will assist our governments in resolving problems which arise. But it seems to me that we've somehow gotten a bit...
Just as a quickie, well, this was happening on the background. Gorbachev and Reagan, Gorbachev was trying to negotiate denuclearization, and at the end it didn't happen. That it's an interesting story in itself, but basically the Russians did want it, and the Americans saw that as the weakness, and basically said no.
Off the track from what could be the topic of our talks today. We've gotten together today to get to know each other better. If we're only going to be talking about lofty political subjects, and those have already been discussed by the leaders of our countries, those have been discussed quite clearly, and I think positions have been stated perfectly accurately. If we do that, I think that it's going to be a kind of amateurish repetition of what professionals have already said. Maybe there are other topics we could discuss here, and then we'd really get to know each other better, and we'd get to understand each other better.
It's based...
In that connection,
based
you should know that there's a good deal of skepticism in the United States about the integrity of the statements that you will make. Not a few Americans believe that you are not really able to speak from your soul for fear of reprisal from Soviet government authorities. There are even some people in this country who feel that you will all serve as mouthpieces for the official party line, because to do otherwise might earn you a visit to a psychiatric hospital or perhaps a prison. This is not to say that all Americans believe that. This is not to say that you are dishonorable people. It is rather to honestly share with you the perception that millions of Americans have about life in the Soviet Union and the inability to speak one's mind.
How many think that right now? Come on. How many, we all watch the news. And this is 1985.
Лев Яковлев, я преподаватель.
I'm a
Я,
teacher. My name is
например,
Lev
все
Yakovlev.
засмеялись здесь, когда вы сказали,
Everyone,
что
in
мы в
fact,
психиатрическую больницу можем попасть.
Broke out in laughter when they said we might end up in a psychiatric
Глупо,
hospital.
конечно. И выражаем свои мысли
We
всегда
express our
с полной
views
отдачей и с удовольствием
from the heart,
слушаем наше правительство,
and
потому
we,
что во всем
in
оно
fact,
право.
listen to our government very carefully. We support it because it's right.
Никто не хочет из советских людей войны.
No one in the
Наше
Soviet Union
советское
wants
правительство
war.
борется за войну, за то, чтобы не было никогда войны.
We, in fact, waged a
За
war
мир
so there'd be no more
во всем
war,
мире. И
so there'd
вот
be
наше
peace the world
предложение,
over.
почему американцы
And our
отвечают на наше предложение
question
о
is,
моратории
why
о ядерных
do the
испытаниях?
Americans not respond to a moratorium on nuclear testing? There was a recent underground testing of a new nuclear bomb, and from the very beginning, since Hiroshima, we've been asking for a moratorium. We have done a great deal, and we require that the Americans do the same. And we're not afraid to speak out. How can we show you that we are not all from the Secret Service here, and that we'll all go to the psychiatric ward? Perhaps this is the practice of another country you know of, but this is not the practice in our country. We don't have this. I'm also a teacher in a normal school, and I asked my children when I was preparing for this meeting, what would you like to know? Of course, they had difficulties because they know your country very well, and none of them at all thought that you couldn't say what you thought. Why do you think that about us?
Why?
Well, if that's the case, then I'd like to ask the questioner, what is the city of Gorky and what is it used for?
This man implies that Gorky is a place to which critics of the Soviet system are sent, including Andrei.
Well, the name of Sakharov and of others sometimes enter our newspapers, and I think that he has slandered the Soviet Union. These are my words. My own view is that he is a traitor, and a traitor should not be treated liberally, but as he deserves.
This addresses a fundamental difference in our societies, because we can have healthful protest without fear of reprisal from government authorities. And our feeling is that you do not.
Hang on just a moment, please.
I'd like to speak to that. I really don't trust.
I was born in that area, and I very much like that city, the city of Gorky. I love that city.
You missed the point, sir.
Exile. It's a very nice country
Excuse
about
me.
which songs are written.
Excuse me, sir. You missed the point. We are agreed that Gorky is a wonderful city. That is not the question. The question is, why, because someone dissents from Soviet policy, are they immediately called a traitor? That is offensive to America's understanding of free speech.
Unlike America, we have laws in the Soviet Union which in fact forbid propaganda of war and hatred for the peoples. And since 1917, peace with all peoples. And Sakharov has even encouraged you to begin a war against us. And our government sent him where there are no foreign consulates, so he could not use these against the Soviet Union for anti-Soviet propaganda, against me.
Yes, but I don't know whether you fully appreciate.
Is it me or? Let me try it again.
Passion with which millions of Americans view the restricted lives of the Soviet people. This is especially an agony within the Jewish community, who believe there are thousands of Jews in Russia who cannot emigrate simply because they are Jewish or because of some unjustified Soviet reasoning.
You can see a lot of the sentiments and ideas are the same. I'm going to jump a little bit. Yeah, actually, there was a protest outside in the United States. They're really interesting questions. I think this
The
one.
way we see it. We believe that each person should be free to speak his mind. We know that the American government, the government of the United States, is wrong many times. One of the things that bothers me about many of the comments that I hear from Leningrad is that there seems to be some feeling, which was expressed earlier, that the Soviet government is right or always right. If I use that line of reasoning, I would have to ask you, would you agree then that the government of Adolf Hitler was always right for the German people?
I'd like to answer that. I'd like to say that we choose our government so that our government can carry out our will. I don't understand how I could be in disagreement with a person who is doing what I want him to do. If I were to ask someone to do something, and he did that, then I can't disagree with that. In addition, I want to say that I personally took part in a meeting, in a protest meeting. It protested against militarization. All of us in Leningrad got together on Vasilyev Island, and I remember that we all fully agreed with the policy of our government. We do have demonstrations. At the demonstrations, we express our views openly and frankly.
Here in the United States, as a citizen, I think that our
You're
nation...
saying a great deal here.
Hold on just one moment, Vladimir, if you will, please.
I feel that our nation does a lot of very unjust things. We've completely wiped out the American Indians that existed here. Slavery existed in our country. We supported Somoza, and we support Marcos in the Philippines, and we do a lot of very ugly things. But it is our ability to be able to recognize this and to be able to work for social change. And my ideas may not always agree with everybody else's, but it is the fact that I can express that idea and that I can be in disagreement that allows a free marketplace of ideas to exist.
Yeah.
All right,
If you had the opportunity to take a look at our newspapers, you would find more criticism in our papers than anywhere else. Real criticism, genuine criticism.
And as Americans, how does the media sell you other countries? What is this prevalent idea about Mexico or about Iran, Syria? Man, that was that's a really neat topic to dig into. Just yeah.
This is a very small group. It lives in the north of our multinational country.
Your government has Pravda. Your government puts on your news. Our government doesn't put on our news. It's privately produced. They can say anything they want. We have values in our country that I'm sure are very much like the values in your country, but we don't get those values from you.
I very often travel abroad, too, to different countries, and there I very often see TV movies, and very often I see movies about Soviet soldiers and about 07, and usually people are given an old uniform. You usually see Russian soldiers wearing the kind of uniform that we used to have during the Civil War 65 or 70 years ago. Now, there are films. Now, the kind of films that we have now are Soviet films, are films which aren't shown on your television. You show the kinds of things that you've cooked up yourselves.
Yes.
Oh, listen to
I'm
this.
wearing this
Listen to
uniform in part to protest my
no,
own country's mistakes.
not this, but the point on like name 3 Russian films that have come out this year. Welcome Glitch. Or name 1 Mexican film. Name 1 French. There's a little problem there, right? And why do we all like this consensus about the American films? And I'm gonna jump to Sky, but yeah, it's hard. We're almost done, by the way. I think that you get the idea about this. But I'm not gonna spoil the ending. It closes off. Somebody says, "Excellent response."
Please tell me, do your people know, and especially people in Seattle, about the blockade of Leningrad in the Second World War? If you're aware of this, then try to understand the Leningraders gathered here. Try to understand what we suffered, that what our children suffered. I was a child at the time. And even when we talk about shortcomings, but the most precious thing to us is peace on earth. Because of this, I still have good feelings from Americans, because in 45, in Dessau on the Elbe, I met Americans, and they were really very nice. And I would like to have such good relations with all people, and I hope the same is true on your side. Thank you.
Thank you for your warm New Year's wishes, and we would like to pass that on to you also. My question...
Yes, somebody mentioned in the chat that a long time ago when we were watching I think the protests in Taiwan, and I mentioned that the banners and the signs that they were waving, they were in English. Why? To whom they were sending the message? You know, it's kind of strange. Or now YouTube gives you a little notice, but if you have like this YouTube channel called I-24 Israel 24, transmitting in English, who do you think that information is for? Israelis? I don't think so. Or why did when Russia Today had its channel in English, in the same way America does the same thing. But unfortunately, all the other channels are still available on YouTube, but Russia Today got screwed over. Why? Because it's Russian. I mean, they all peddle their own propaganda, even the local ones.
Is with abortion, is that a problem in your country right now?
Abortion, how do you mean is it a problem?
Is there a choice? Do the women have a choice? And are the
Oh my God, is this 2024 or what?
Our government, which stated that it has committed itself never, ever to attack anyone first.
Yeah.
In their fight against Angola. And why have you used your forces to attack Nicaragua? We have.
Again, why are they asking those kind of questions to normal citizens? Like if like they know people don't do war. People don't like war. The Chinese people are not out there to screw you over. Mexicans are not going into your jobs and pointing you with the gun and trying to steal them, steal those jobs. It's but that's the idea that it's implanted. That's the problem. Almost done. Yeah.
Civilian aircraft on which perhaps the stewardess with whom we spoke a moment ago may have been a passenger. That the technology exists to determine that that is a civilian airplane, even presuming ill intent, which we do not. I can say to you that there are a number of Americans who would reasonably argue that we would not have shot it down. We would have made our formal protest and offered evidence of the incursion.
But fortunately, this hasn't got to be checked out, because fortunately the Soviet Union will not send a civilian plane to spy on American territory. But I would like to say that I think that the armed forces of the United States would react precisely in that way. But let's agree to differ, if you will. That's my viewpoint.
I have the following question. We're very worried about missiles in West Germany, cruise missiles in...
This lady that makes the question.
And today, I think that if we've at least understood this on both sides, that we are in fact different, that each of us has its own viewpoint, and that it's worth something. This will be a first step, albeit a trembling one, but a first step towards understanding. And when we understand, then we will no longer be afraid of each other. There'll be no paranoia. There'll be normal conversation. First and foremost, we have to understand. This is my feeling about today's meeting.
May I say, Vladimir? May I say, please? We do have prejudices about each other, and it gives me no joy to say that much of the reporting about your country in the West does have a Western spin. We aren't getting as much varied information about you as we should. It should also be said that your media is not famous for featuring American spokesmen, including our president. We also want you to know...
Not now. Well, anyway, just to not make it too long, not only your knowledge, your perception makes your reality, your culture, where you were born, in what year you were born, the gender you were born in, the how you were raised, and that's going to change your whole perception of the world, right? If I can speak on my case, at least here in Mexico, we like we in my case, I had a really hard time to understand racism, like to dislike somebody for the color of their skin. Or in my personal case, that I grew up with my aunt, completely women-filled house, that that men are in some ways more or better, or even that they had more opportunities. I remember when I was growing up and trying to get a part-time job, every like administrative or office job, they only accepted women, and I hated it. It all the jobs for men were the kind of jobs that I didn't want to do. So if we can understand that and be okay with it, not see each other like we're never going to be able to talk. We live in completely different realities. Democrats and Republicans, the left and the right, their great divide, polarization, it's kind of weak. Again, I'm going to make the question, how many of you have a passport? How many of you have traveled to another country recently? If you do that, your reality will break. You will see that you can live in a completely different way without or with things that you thought you would never be able to live without or with. And that's why I wanted to show you this. I really like this show. I don't know why they don't do it anymore. Like something like that. Because basically the same kind of topics, or I can see the same kind of biases presented on each side, is prevalent. I mean, just if you think of free speech in Russia, that for us that we live on this side, we say no. If you talk against Putin, you're gonna get to the gulags. And is it real? Have you been in Russia and verified, or is it what you learn on the news? You live here in Mexico and you go outside at night. Are the narcos gonna get you? What's the real, ratio that you can get in a Mexican standoff between the narcos and the police and yourself. You know that. That really doesn't really happen. Right. So anyway, I want just to cut this short. Thank you for watching. This was a first live stream. I haven't done this in years. It's gonna get better, but there's a catch. Yeah, you have to like, subscribe, and I got a job now. I don't need to do this. It's so much freedom. I love it. I don't get to give a crap about what they say about me on social media, and I'm doing this just because I want to, but if you want good content, good live streams, good discussions like the ones we're gonna have next, because I'm gonna do another one. We're testing. Yeah, buy me a coffee. There's the link. And if it's a motivation, I'm gonna be more glad to put more effort on it. And you help my socialist vampire agenda to be fulfilled by buying me that coffee. And thank you for joining. Catch you guys later in like an hour or so. We're gonna have D-Talk. I think it's time. Yeah, thank you.
Change is a conspiracy made up by socialist vampires to push policies. A grain of Federal, that's our evil plot. Free-range organic humans have the most delicious blood. We'll build clean energy to improve equality, creating lots of jobs with fat pay guarantee. Developing revolution, that's our evil plot. Free-range organic humans have the most delicious blood. And recycling is a lie to make you go outside. The night to take your things out is the night they buy. We'll tax the frequent flyers and make the trains free, covering your planet with lots of lovely trees. Stress is a pollution, we don't want blood to clot. Free-range organic humans have the most delicious blood. Smart meters are a lie, so you invite us inside. We hide in hiding, so we catch your eye. Mesmerize you, now you know our plan to the scale economy. Measure growth and happiness instead of GDP. Don't try to run the others, it's already too late. The next blood we drink is running in your veins.